Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of TGC Radio. I'm your host, Jonathan Bundy, and today will probably be a little bit of a shorter episode. There aren't as many interesting stories from last week, but there are a lot of in-game events for Valentine's Day, which I hope everyone had a wonderful Valentine's Day. I certainly did because I was at work for most of the day, so that was a lot of fun for me. But yeah, I hope everyone's having a great week so far. And thanks for tuning in. If you've never listened to TGC Radio before, this is the show that we use to discuss some of the stories that come out every week. For example, our other show, Roundup, usually just kind of regurgitates news, to that way you can keep up with current events in the gaming industry and things like that. But it doesn't really go into like opinion or discussion. So this is what TGC Radio is for. So like I said, this week I'll be your host, and let's get started with a new event in Borderlands 3 called the Broken Hearts Day. And let me just read exactly what Gearbox has said about the new event. Broken Hearts Day is fast approaching in the Borderlands, and Maurice is hoping you'll assist with his ongoing study of the human condition as he turns his attention to our species' courting rituals. That sounds a little feisty right there. I guess he's studying how humans mate. Interesting. I haven't played Borderlands 3, so I don't know who Maurice is, but he sounds like an interesting character for sure. But basically, the event is where, as you play through the game normally, you'll encounter enemies with hearts above their heads, and you have to shoot these hearts to earn the in-game event rewards. So, for example, if you shoot, say, 10 hearts during the event, you get the Echo skin. And if you go all the way to 100 hearts, which is the most you can get for a reward, you get a wedding invitation skin for the legendary Jacob's sniper rifle. So that sounds pretty awesome. I always like weapon camos and weapon skins in FPS games because some FPS games like Overwatch and Call of Duty, their cosmetic skins are always like for the character models sometimes. And I don't really think that's as good in an FPS game because you can't really, see it. It works in Fortnite pretty well because, it's third person, which we'll get into Fortnite later today. But, yeah, that's kind of my issue with, like, character model skins in FPS games. But this is why I say, the wedding invitation camos skin for the sniper rifle, that sounds pretty cool. And, to give Call of Duty some credit, their main thing is earning weapons, camos, and everything. The only problem is there's a lot of cosmetic bundles you have to pay for now, especially in Black Ops Cold War and even last year with Modern Warfare. So, I'm really glad that this is a free event that anyone can earn these cosmetics by just playing the game. That's how it should be. I don't think you should have to pay more. When you've already paid for a video game like Borderlands 3 that would have costed like I'm sure $60 when it came out. I don't think you should have to keep paying for more and more content unless it's substantial content like an expansion pack or a DLC pack where it adds like a new area to the game, new weapons, new story. I think that's worth your money. But just paying for one, cosmetic skin, I personally I don't find it worthwhile. But that's nice about this event. It's a free event. You can log into Borderlands 3 right now and start earning the weapons, skins, and everything. So that's great. And the hearts that you shoot above enemies' heads aren't even just Like they aren't even just like they break and then that's it. Some of them have they'll always have special effects, right? Sometimes if you shoot a heart above an enemy's head, it'll drop to the ground and explode. So I'm assuming that'll kill the enemy and also kill or damage nearby enemies. Some of them might actually just drop loot, which is cool, or they might briefly turn enemies into allies, which is, I mean, that's pretty awesome too. You're just in the middle of a gunfight, then all of a sudden the enemy starts fighting with you. So that's pretty fun. I think that's a very nice event idea on the part of Gearbox here. I think it's very cool. And the other thing that Gearbox has said about Borderlands 3 is that they also apparently released a community love letter, or I guess themed around Valentine's Day, but also just kind of going over the future of Borderlands 3 with a roadmap. And I kind of find it off-putting that in their roadmap they plan to have skippable cutscenes. I don't think I've ever seen a video game with a roadmap that includes skippable cutscenes. Usually that's included in the game at launch. So I find that really weird that, I mean, if they have cutscenes, why aren't they skippable already? And why is it even on the roadmap? Shouldn't that just be a quick, patch? I have no clue. I'm a computer science major, so I understand that, we have to keep in mind as players, I think a lot of people forget this, video games are software. They're hundreds, not even hundreds, just like thousands, millions of lines of code, all written by these teams of people. So sometimes, even though to us, you might sit here and be like, why can't they just add in this thing? Or why can't they just patch this? It's like, you got to think about, let's say there's a new bug in your game. You got to look through millions of lines of code before you can even, begin to find it. Or even if what's causing it, that just finding out what's causing the bug is a whole other issue. You have to search through lines of code, and all this code has been written by different people. It's not all written by one person, right? It's written by a whole team of people. So some people might understand more parts of the code that they wrote, but not understand a part of the code that someone else wrote, and that's kind of the thing about video game development that gets overlooked. A lot of the time when we talk about video game development, it's so dominated by how much creative freedom the devs have. If you really think about it, when it comes to a dev team, though, the people who are making creative decisions are probably the design team, the higher ups who actually work together to kind of create the vision for what the game is going to be, right? The gameplay ideas, the story, the setting, overall aesthetic. You're going to have a composer as well. Those are the more artsy people who do add to the artistic aspect of video games. But you also have, lead programmers and just programmers who are doing the nitty-gritty. They're having to actually take that vision and then implement it, actually write code that, creates the game. And that's what it is at the end of the day. It's all code. That's why, you'll hear people talk about the source code of a video game it's all software at the end of the day. So I'm kind of being a little what's the word? A little unfair about being why can't you skip the cutscenes? But it's so shocking to me because if they were going to have skippable cutscenes, how long has Borderlands 3 been out? Let's just look it up real quick because I'm pretty sure this game has been out for almost 2 years now. And I can't believe there aren't skippable cutscenes already. I'm getting hung up on this, but it's how do you not? It came out in 2019. This game came out in 2019. It came out in, let's see, what month? I think it said September. Blah, 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 blah. Borderlands 3 was released on September 13th, 2019 for Microsoft Windows, PS4, and Xbox One. So it'll be 2 years later this year. So about a year and a half, let's just say a year and a half, and they don't have skippable cutscenes. What is going on over at Gearbox? That's crazy to me. That is absolutely insane. And just FYI for you guys, like take everything I say about Borderlands with a grain of salt because I have actually only played I think half of Borderlands 2. Um, I played it with a friend and we stopped. We never finished our playthrough. But it was a co-op playthrough I did with someone, and we got all the way. If you haven't played Borderlands 2, spoilers here, but we got all the way to the right after you find Handsome Jack's daughter. I think her name's Angel. Yeah, and she dies. It was right after that. So I would imagine that's probably halfway through the game, or maybe it's a little bit over half. I don't know because I've never finished it. But I mean, I really loved Borderlands 2 when I did play it. I'm actually getting ready to go back and play it again with someone else. So hopefully I'll be able to play through the whole series. But as far as Borderlands 3, I've heard very mixed things about it. Like, for example, that, you know, I've heard the gameplay is fun, but like the story was awful. Or I've even heard that the gameplay is bad because they like sort of nerfed all the overpowered weapons that the game had at launch. So a lot of people are like, oh, well, you know, this is Borderlands. The whole point's supposed to be getting the amazing overpowered weapons. So when you take them out or nerf them, what's the point anymore, you know? And I think that leads to a whole broader discussion of why do we have to balance games now, especially like FPS games? Like, why do we always have to go in with this competitive mindset, even in like what's ultimately a co-op looter shooter experience, you know? You should be rewarded for playing the game, getting the good loot, getting the awesome weapons, you know? It's not like Fortnite, right, where you're looking for loot, but you're also competing against other people. You're in a PvE cooperative experience. You know, you're playing with your friends. It's supposed to be fun. So I just don't see why the whole game industry now has this whole shtick about balancing their games, you know, even when they're not even competitive. It boggles my mind because there was a time, if you look back at gaming history, where like the overpowered weapons were like the best parts of those games, and people loved them. Like Halo Combat Evolved, you go back and play that, the pistol in that game, it's kind of broken, but it's also so much fun to just shoot. So, and even going so far back as like, I mean, games like Doom, like they're built around having these broken, overpowered guns, but there's still a challenge because of the way the game is designed, right? You don't have a game doesn't have to be so balanced, quote unquote, to be fun. You know, you can have an unbalanced weapon pool, but still have fun. You know, it's a much broader discussion, but that's completely off topic from Borderlands 3. But you know, I think it's a cool event, Broken Hearts. And yeah, moving on from that, let's go and see what's happening over at Fortnite, everyone's favorite battle royale. I feel like it's very popular to hate on Fortnite. Now, I don't actually know how many people are still playing Fortnite. From what I understand, it's dropped off. At least maybe in you know, the older demographic, like people who are sort of like, you know, 18, early 20s. I'd imagine most of the Fortnite player base now is people in high school or, you know, kids. Not to be like condescending or anything, but it's just, I don't even think it's because the game only appeals to children. I think, you know, there's still a lot of older people who like to play Fortnite, but the problem is it's become kind of popular to hate on Fortnite or be like, oh, Fortnite's a game for kids. I personally never played Fortnite too much. I've played it a few times. I could never get into it. I don't like third-person shooters. I don't think third-person shooters are bad per se, but me personally, I just prefer the first-person experience when it comes to shooters. That's just me, though. I know lots of people love Fortnite. Lots of people love games like Gears of War. And so there's definitely still the appeal there. It's just not for me personally. But anyways, the new Fortnite Valentine's Day event is called Hearts Wild. There's basically some new cosmetics you can get. So it started on February 8th, and it ended. Wait, it's going to end. I think it did. It end yesterday. Let's see. Assemble your duos team for the Hearts Wild Cup on February 9th, 2021. Nope. Community Battles returns for Hearts Wild with a new event, Hearts Wild Team Battles. Between February 10th to the 17th, Fortnite players will have an opportunity to team up with their favorite creators to help them earn points in unique challenges. By placing highly enough, participants competing against other teams within the regional group can win in-game rewards. So it sounds like they're having a semi-pro competition and you can earn cosmetic rewards for Valentine's Day. That's cool. The most interesting part of this article written by the Epic Games team, well, the Fortnite team as they call themselves, is expressing yourself with papercraft. Okay, listen to this. So, papercraft cosplay and figures have made their return for Hearts Wild. And you're like, okay, what do you mean papercraft cosplay? So it says, visit the Fortnite Cosplay page. I didn't know they had a cosplay page. To download and print your paper materials. From there, build masks to cosplay as Wildcard, Lovethorn, and Heartbreaker. I didn't realize that Epic Games was, making masks for Fortnite cosplays. I didn't even realize Fortnite cosplay was a thing. Although, to be honest, you can probably cosplay as any fictional character at this point. I personally actually really love cosplay. I've been to a couple conventions where people cosplay, and they're always really cool. I love seeing costumes. People dress up as different superheroes or just characters from a video game or a TV show. It's always super cool to see how creative people can be with how they recreate those characters. And there is a lot that goes into cosplay. But I just find it kind of hilarious that Epic Games has kind of like manufactured their own mask that you could just print out and, cosplay yourself. I think it just doesn't do good for their reputation as a kid's game, because a lot of people, that's how a lot of people see Fortnite now. And again, like, I'm not hating on anyone who plays Fortnite or anything. If you love Fortnite, that's completely fine. It's just that I don't think they're doing much to help their reputation. I mean, not that they even need to, right? I mean, if Epic Games has decided that their target demographic for Fortnite is going to be people who are maybe in middle school or high school, and they're focusing on that demographic, that's completely fine for them as a business. You need to know who you're targeting with all of your promotional material. But, I thought that was very interesting. Paper cosplay. That is something. But, and, of course, with the new Fortnite Valentine's Day events, you get like new skins, new weapon skins. So, and it kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier with weapon camos and skins and shooters. In a game like Fortnite, I think it's awesome because you can actually see your character, right? I think that's why Fortnite's cosmetics have a lot more appeal to people than something like buying camos in Call of Duty, right? I mean, there are still people that obviously buy the camos not in Fortnite, but in Call of Duty. Like they buy the weapon bundles and everything. But I would rather buy, like, if I was going to pick a game to buy cosmetics in, it would have to be Fortnite, just because I feel like the quality of their cosmetics, is pretty up there. I mean, I've never been a big fan of Fortnite, but I have to admit their cosmetics are usually really cool. And lately, they've been doing a lot of cross promotion with other companies, like Disney, when they I think they recently just did like a whole Mandalorian event. Like, you could buy a skin where you play as the Mandalorian. I thought that was very cool. They had a whole cross over event with Marvel a few months ago, or maybe it might have been a year ago now. I have no clue. But that was pretty awesome. I've seen. I'm a big fan of Batman. I've seen that they have like Batman skins, a Joker skin, a Harley Quinn skin. I it just kind of blows my mind that Fortnite has gotten to the point where they're doing cross promotion with other big companies. Because I mean, when you really think about it, the kind of like broad appeal Fortnite has for reaching like younger audiences, that's a gold mine for other companies. I mean, it's great for Epic because they can use they can leverage their player base to say to other companies or other businesses, say, hey, you want to promote your stuff on Fortnite, you sign a deal with us, we can help you promote your own stuff, which that's pretty smart. I mean, it's like I've said before, I don't really like Fortnite, but I gotta hand it to Epic here. I mean, they seem to know from a business standpoint how to take advantage of all of their promotional material and just using their game to sell products for other companies. I mean, it's pretty smart. But anyways, that's enough about Fortnite. Moving on to our last story. This story wasn't discussed in our roundup last week, but I thought it was a pretty interesting story. CD Projekt Red, if you didn't hear last week, they were hacked by an anonymous group of hackers. There was a cyber attack that stole a whole bunch of data from CD Projekt Red. The cyber attack stole information about financial records, business records, legal records, human resources records, right? So these hackers got a lot of information about CDPR's internal organization with their business flow and who their employee. I'm assuming they probably got the information of their employees and that. And CD Projekt Red said that I saw on Twitter that they said that ex-employees weren't in danger, or they were at least they made a tweet saying they didn't believe ex-employees' information was stolen, but they cautioned them to go ahead and change your passwords for various accounts and everything, so that way that if the information was stolen, they can it'll at least be outdated, so that way you can't have your accounts hacked or stolen by these same hackers. And CD Projekt Red has also said that they don't believe any players' personal information was stolen, which is good, right? But they believe that. So I think, as of last week at least, they were still investigating, how deep this cyber attack actually got in their information systems. And it just kind of highlights the world we live in now, where it's all these companies, they have access to all of our personal information or anything like that. And so that comes with, a lot of benefits for them as businesses, because then they can learn more about their customers and how they want to market their products. But on the other hand, it puts a lot of us at risk, especially when you have to give them information to even use their services, right? Like when you want to buy something on the Xbox store or the PlayStation store, you have to give Xbox and PlayStation your debit card information. And then so if their information systems are hacked through a cyber attack, you could have your credit card information stolen, which, it's a liability for these companies to make sure, that the information they take from you is safe. And I'm not saying CD Projekt Red should have been able to predict the cyber attack or anything, but it's something to think about. But that's not even the worst part of all this. The worst part is that the hackers actually stole the source code for Cyberpunk 2077. And I can't believe that. I mean, like, you think about CD Projekt Red over the last couple months. What I think Cyberpunk came out in December, so yeah, last couple months. They have had such a awful time with how that game was handled. I'm actually interested to look at the source code. I want to see how bad it is. Or just, I can't even imagine like all these bugs. Like that game was hyped up so much, and it just became another No Man's Sky. It dropped, and then it was super buggy. I mean, Xbox and PlayStation had to pull it from their stores because the old gen version of the game was so bad, and it's not even old gen. I've seen a lot of people talking about Cyberpunk 2077, and they'll say, "Oh, well, the game runs fine on my, high-end PC that costs so much money that a lot of people probably don't even have, and it also runs great on, next gen." But it's like this game was in development during the last generation of hardware. Like, you realize this, right? Like, it was developed at a time when the target consoles would have been the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, and then, One S and One X. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, if they were developing the game for those consoles, because they said they was going to release on PC and console, how could it have ran so badly on those consoles? Because you can't even, I don't think they can use the excuse of it runs great on next gen. It's like, well, of course it runs great on next gen. Next gen is basically like a high-end PC at this point, with like the amount of like the performance and everything it has, At least that's what the manufacturers for those consoles have promised. Whether or not, game developers take advantage of those additions to the hardware, that remains to be seen. We're still in this beginning of the next gen phase of consoles, so there's not a lot of games out for them yet, but they're coming for sure. And Cyberpunk 2077 was not a game that was supposed to be on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. I mean, think about it. If this game's been in development for I think 4 years. I mean, obviously the E3 trailers go all the way back to 10 years, but reports are saying this game only started development 4 years ago. If that's the case, how could they not have been targeting, current gen consoles? I don't understand how the game runs so poorly. But I mean, other than that, I mean, now the source code's been stolen. They have all this bad press. They released this buggy game. Game got pulled from the stores. Then they've had to release apology videos, which, in my personal opinion, don't really come across as authentic or genuine. I don't think CDPR are sorry for what they did. I'm sure the devs feel bad. I mean, because let's face it, look at it from a programmer or a developer standpoint. You don't want to release a bad game. No one goes into a game development process and says, "I'm going to release a buggy, broken mess." No one sits there and says that. I'm sure they want to be proud of the game they release to the public, right? Just like any director who releases a film, they want their film to do well at the box office. They want their film to be something that they feel proud of, that their team can feel accomplished for. It's the same thing with video games. I mean, I consider mediums like video games and films a little similar in that, it's an entire team of people working together to create one product. And it requires a diverse set of skills and specialized jobs to make it happen. So no one goes into releasing a game and thinking, I want to make it bad. They obviously want it to be good. So that's why I feel bad for the programmers and developers. But at the same time, based on what we've heard about Cyberpunk 2077's development and what we can see in the game, based on all the bugs, it just seems like the game had no direction. It just seems like they weren't even sure what game they were trying to make. They have a kind of like a star system like GTA, where if you do something in the Cyberpunk city, I forget the name of it, the police, if you commit a crime or something, the police will come and get you, and but they just sort of spawn in right behind you, where there's no nuance, there's no trying to make it even feel immersive, they just kind of start spawning in sporadically around you, and it's like it's very clearly like a half-assed system that was added in late in development. Like they probably didn't even plan on it, or maybe they were just like, oh hey, we should have this in the game. You know, when you're designing a game, you need to make sure you have goalposts and everything, right? You need to make sure that you know what you're doing going in. You need to have designers leading, you know, development so that the team stays on track, right? So that to me, this is just what this looks like. And then, so after all this bad press, after all this controversy, after all the apology videos, now they've been hacked, and the Cyberpunk 2077 source code has been stolen from them. It's just insane, and apparently it's already been sold. Apparently there is a hacker forum on the dark web, because I mean, of course, it's on the dark web, right? But the hacker forum where these people apparently auctioned off all the information they stole, and they started the bid at $1 million. But apparently another party, like a third interested party, offered $7 million to just buy all the data they had, which is insane, right? Who is out here paying $7 million for Cyberpunk 2077 source code? I mean, I'm just curious to see what do they want to do with it. I mean, if they have all the legal, human resources, and financial documents from CDPR, like, they're going to blackmail them, they're going to use that to get competitive advantage against them. Like, who is out here paying $7 million for this? It's very, I mean, because the hackers, I mean, when it's very clear their motive was just money. I mean, they auctioned it as soon as they had it, as soon as CDPR said they weren't going to negotiate with them or pay any ransom. So they're like, okay, well, if you're not going to pay the ransom, we're just going to sell it to the highest bidder, right? So they were just in it to make money. But this person who spent $7 million, or this person or these people, to buy all of it, supposedly. Like, it's still not clear who has actually, I mean, obviously no one knows who bought it. But what I mean is that no one knows who bought it, how much they paid for it, or what they even want to do, right? Because all that happened was someone supposedly offered $7 million for it. Then the auction was ended. And the hackers, you know, they said, okay, we're not going to be auctioning off anything else. It's all gone. It was sold. They didn't disclose how much, obviously. So it's insane to me that this has happened. And I mean, because, you know, you might be wondering, like, why would someone want the source code for a game? Well, when you have the source code, you can look at how the game functions on a software level, right? You can use it to make your own games. You can see how they did something that you want to do. Like, for example, like a lot of video game publishers and studios have engines, right? You've probably heard of the Unreal Engine. That's a very popular video game engine, but it's free for everyone. That's why it's so popular, right? Because anyone can use it to make a game, and they don't have to waste development time building a new engine. Because building a new engine is basically starting video game development from scratch. If you don't have an engine, because a video game engine just comes with like built-in features already there for you. You know, for things like lighting, maybe modeling, maybe it already has support for online features. If you don't have an engine, you have to make all that from scratch, which is very time-consuming and difficult, and you have to get it right, because the game engine is basically the foundation for your video game, right? If you don't get that right, you know, it's gone. If you don't get the foundation of a house right, it's gonna fall apart. Same thing with the game engine. So, like, for example, I think id Software, the engine that they've been using for years is called id Tech, and it's had different iterations, like id Tech 1, which was the 1993 Doom, and that's how old that engine was, right? It was made to make Doom 1993, but now you have id Tech 1, id Tech 2, id Tech 3, and so on and so forth. I think now they're on id Tech 7 is what Doom Eternal runs on. And so one of the things that does is, like, they keep adding more and more features onto it, maybe rewriting parts of it. Just they keep consolidating what it can do to support, newer hardware, newer capabilities as they come, right? That's why it goes through so many iterations. So with the Cyberpunk 2077 and The Witcher 3, from what I've been reading, they're apparently on the same engine. Right here, this tweet says that they auction off the stolen source code for the Red Engine and CD Projekt Red game releases. So basically, the game engine that CDPR has been using is the Red Engine, and that's their trademarked software. That's why I'm assuming most. I'd have to look it up to be sure, but I'm assuming most game development studios and publishers actually like patent their game engines, right, or something. I'd assume because they are kind of like intellectual property. Someone had to go and create that engine, and so it's their code, their source code, right? So that's why someone would probably want to pay so much money for this source code, is because that basically lets them see how the Red Engine works. If you want to make a game like The Witcher 3, which, I mean, everyone knows how successful Witcher 3 was. If you want to make a game with that same, technical level, you can just copy the Red Engine. And obviously, you don't want to let people do that because, that takes away the competitive advantage your game studio has by having their own unique engine and source code. It's like that's how you differentiate your games from everyone else in a way. It's like, if our games run on this engine, and so when someone else gets the source code of that engine, they can copy it and start making similar games, and now you have a competitor in the market, right? So that's why someone would want to pay so much money for this source code, is so that they can get a competitive advantage against CDPR. Or maybe it's a hacker who wants to hack their games. I don't know. I would assume that, I would assume that if you're paying $7 million, it has to be another company. It has to be somebody who would want to have a competitive advantage against them. And it's just not looking good for them. That's very terrible. I don't like CDPR and how they've handled Cyberpunk 2077. I think it was handled awfully. I think it was a rushed product. And I say that after it was delayed so many times, but it's like, when I say rushed, I mean that it was not well organized and directed, from what I can tell, based on some of the videos I've seen about the bugs and the half-assed game mechanics that weren't well thought out. To me, that just says, like, there was no real guidance here for development. So I'd blame most of this on upper management. And there are things like, how they handled reviews, right? They wouldn't let reviewers use their own footage. They only let them use footage of the game that CDPR gave them, which is pretty telling, right? When the game releases as a travesty on consoles, because that just means, oh, well, clearly you didn't want people to see how bad the game was. And one of their apology videos, they tried to excuse it by saying, like, oh, well, they try to explain why they couldn't let them do it or something. I can't remember, but it's just like, I don't want to hear anything they have to say at this point. I think it's pretty clear here. Upper management wanted to get the game out, get it for their their last quarter, financial quarter for the year or whatever. That's what they wanted. Because it's, at the end of the day, we as players love to talk about games. It's like these creative masterpieces. In a lot of ways, they really are. But in a lot of other ways, they're there to make money, right? Maybe an indie. Maybe you can have an indie game studio. And some people like to say indie games are more art-driven, more sort of like novelties or just experimental, right? The whole indie game scene is very different from the AAA game scene, but they're all there to make money at the end of the day. You can compare how artsy one is to the other, or maybe how much manpower they have available, right? You can compare all the logistics of them as businesses, but they're there to make money. So That's the thing people tend to forget, is that these games are there to make money. So, anyways, that was the three major stories we had to discuss today on TGC Radio. I hope you enjoyed the discussion. Um, Leave a comment if you have something to say. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. And if you disagree with something I said, please say so in the comments, because I do love hearing different perspectives on video game discussion. Because I mean, especially now, video games have such a broad appeal that there are just so many people who love playing them, and people come from all these diverse backgrounds. From social class, race, gender. Like, it's so nice to hear everyone discuss them so openly. When we can have these discussions without, maybe starting any mean comments or anything like that. So please comment down below if you have something to say. And if you like content like this, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be releasing new episodes of TGC Radio every week. We also release new episodes of Roundup every week. You can pick. I would encourage you to watch both, but if you prefer this style over just regurgitating the news, then tune into TGC Radio. This week I didn't have another host with me, but next week I will definitely have someone else on the show to kind of have a discussion with. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. See ya.